So God calls us to love other people the way that we love ourselves. But what do we do when we come into a situation where we're supposed to love someone that's really different than us? In this video, I'm going to be sharing about how to actually love somebody different than you, even when you don't agree with them. Yeah, and I'm talking about that person that really annoys you. All right, one of the first things we need to start with is recognizing that love and agreement are two separate things. If we're really supposed to shine as lights in this world, then we need to learn how to love people that we disagree with, even on very important matters. Luke chapter 6, 27 through 28 says, "But I say you who hear, love your enemies, do good to those who hate you, bless those who curse you, pray for those who mistreat you." As you can see, this is a very different approach to probably the way that the world would respond to those things. The world would want to fight back. Jesus is saying, no, those are the very people that you're supposed to love. The thing is with the world, they live under this conditional system of love. If you do or believe X, Y, or Z, then I can love you. But if you don't believe that, then I'm going to have a hard time loving you. Christ's example is far, far different from that. Here in chapter 6 of Luke, verse 32 through 33, it says, "If you love those who love you, what credit is that to you? For even sinners love those who love them. If you do good to those who do good to you, what credit is that to you? For even sinners do the same." So he's saying it's fairly simple to love people that love you, or to love people that you agree with, love people that share your value system. Even sinners are able to do that. That doesn't take God to do that. But what I'm calling you to, as a follower of me, as a follower of Christ, is to love people who hate you, to love people who mistreat you, to love people who think vastly different than you do on a myriad of subjects. So we want to follow Christ's example with this. And what this means is that we're going to have to be careful to not disassociate ourselves from people who think differently. This is what Paul says in regards to really loving people and being associated with those even that don't share our common views of faith. He says in 1 Corinthians 5, 9 through 13, "I wrote you in my letter not to associate with immoral people. I did not at all mean with the immoral people of this world, or with the covetous and swindlers, or with idolaters, for then you would have to go out of the world. But actually, I wrote to you not to associate with any so-called brother if he is an immoral person, or covetous, or an idolater, or a reviler, or a drunkard, or a swindler, not even to eat with such a one. For what have I to do with judging outsiders? Do you not judge those who are within the church? But those who are outside God judges. Remove the wicked man from among yourselves." And so he's saying, okay, there's really a difference here by the way that we treat people who are outside the church, people who don't believe in Jesus, and people who are within the church, those that share our faith. And I think we're so quick to throw stones at those who do not know the Lord and thus act in ways that are contrary to what the Bible teaches and what our values are. And so he's saying, no, you don't want to just completely disassociate yourself from those people. If we do that, if all of us as Christians do that, then the hope that they have for salvation greatly decreases, because we are supposed to be the salt and the light. We're supposed to be the ones reaching them with the gospel. Yes, even our enemies. Think about what Christ did for us. Here in Romans chapter 5, verse 8 through 10, it says, "But God demonstrates his own love toward us, in that while we were yet sinners, Christ died for us. Much more then, having now been justified by his blood, we shall be saved from the wrath of God through him. For if while we were enemies, we were reconciled to God through the death of his Son, much more, having been reconciled, we shall be saved by his life." And so right here, it's saying we were enemies of Christ because of the sin of Adam, and because that was passed down to every human being since Adam. We started out as enemies of God. And so Christ loved us before we loved him. Christ, even while we were yet enemies, gave the ultimate sacrifice of dying for us. And I really do believe that that's what God calls us to do with outsiders, people who are outside the church, people in the world. We're supposed to lay down our life in a sacrificial type of love, showing them, really displaying to them the love of Christ, because that's what Christ did for us. We're supposed to emulate, we're supposed to reflect that same love to them. Now, one thing I've noticed is that people are very quick to say that they love people that are different than them. There's a phrase that goes, hate the sin, not the sinner. And so we're supposed to, let's say, in terms of somebody who believes in abortion, we're supposed to love the person who believes in abortion, yet we're supposed to hate the fact that they believe that. We're supposed to hate what that perpetuates in their life. And that's all true. But here's what I find funny. Really, what does it mean to love somebody who, in this case, believes in abortion? Because I find that a lot of Christians, a lot of people who are pro-life will actually have no friends at all that fall into that camp. Do you know why? Because immediately when they hear that this person is pro-abortion or pro-choice, they will disassociate. They will separate themselves right off the bat because they just can't handle the fact that they believe that. The great problem with that is that then that's leaving that person with one less friend, one less believer that can be pouring into their life. And so I'd really challenge you. Yes, you may say that you love people who believe very, very differently than you, but how many friends, how many people are you really sacrificing and pouring out love to who don't believe the same way as you? This is really one of the true litmus tests for love.